The Nigerian informal sector is a major contributor to the Nigeria's GDP and, of course, a major employer of labor within the Nigerian economic system. But how much of an impact is the current volatility and complexities around the naira affecting the informal sector? Of course, there has been quite a number of interventions as well. And how much of an impact is that having on the informal sector in Nigeria? I am joined now by an economic analyst, Emmanuel Otori, to discuss this. Thank you, Mr. Emmanuel, for joining us on Business Daily this morning.
Yes, thank you for having me.
And let us start off with like I did say, the complexities around the Nigerian naira right now and how much of an impact it is having on the informal sector. Bearing in mind that, like I said before, the informal sector is very, very, very important to any economy, the major employer of labor, a major contributor to Nigeria's GDP or any country's GDP, as a matter of fact. But let's hear from you. How would you say, from your own lens, that the Nigerian informal sector is faring at this point?
Thank you for having me once again. It's important that we talk about the Nigeria's informal economy as a major contributor to people earning their livelihoods. Why is it important? It's important because people have families, people earn their livings, and this their ability to be able to have a family and create opportunities for them stems from having jobs. And when we talk about jobs, there are situations that has impacted jobs today. One of them is the exit of giants in the country today, like the GSK and the Procter & Gamble, because of the high rate of supply. Now, talking about the volatility of foreign exchange in the country, it affects production. And when it affects production, there is a high rate at which they would have to get raw materials. Now, getting these raw materials, when it becomes high, it impacts operational costs and production costs. When it impacts operational costs and production costs, the producer or the CEO of the company or whatever they do in the informal economy or even in the corporate market will have to lay down employers or lay off employers. When they lay off employers, it will create unemployment. And when there is unemployment, it will bite hard into the livelihood of Nigerians, such as having the inability to access basic needs such as health care, inability to afford basic needs such as feeding, inability to afford basic needs such as housing. And when people cannot afford this because of the hardship, there will be issues like protests, issues like uprisings, issues like kidnappings. All of this happens because of the economic hardship that not just businesses face, but these individuals face. And it is important that the government of the day should begin to look at how to stabilize this foreign exchange so that Nigeria does not become chaotic.
Okay, talking about the government of the day looking into measures to stabilize the economy. To be fair now, on the side of at least the monetary side of government, we've seen quite a number of interventions. I believe yesterday I did see a press statement from the CBN talking about the 7-point agenda for the CBN under the leadership of Chiamaka, where he talked about reducing inflation, revamping BDCs. And last week, we also did see protests from the side of BDCs as well, talking about the different rates that had come out, and also the rates from Binance, the official rates closely meeting the rates from the BDC market. So all of these interventions that we have seen from the CBN, how much of an effect do you expect for it to have, such in the matter that we do not have to, revisit these issues in the short term again?
Okay, these interventions are quite important, and it is good for us to know that we have people who are readily available as technocrats that know what they are doing. So we're pleased to have them at the helm of affairs. However, there are sensitive things that we'll have to pay attention to. That we still have some BDCs who would obtain these currencies at official rate and then sell them at the black market at higher rates would cause a significant difference. It's one of the effects that we call the domino effect. The domino effect is as a result of a policy, and this policy now begins to have ripple effect. When the president assumed office in May 2023, one of his major goals is to attract foreign direct investments. However, in order to attract foreign direct investments, it is necessary that some key procedures or systems are put in place. We cannot attract foreign direct investment with insecurity all over the places, with kidnappings all over the places, with killings all over the places. And one of the ways that can help us stabilize the foreign exchange is to attract foreign direct investment. So we cannot attract foreign direct investment if structures like electricity are not put in place, if good roads are not put in place. So policies are good, however, implementations are better. It's necessary that we can go from policies to implementations. It's also necessary that we can monitor the activities of the BDCs, because it also has an effect on the market, looking at different rates that has been created as a result of the activities of BDCs also has a significant effect on the exchange rate. So it's necessary that the government should also create environment for businesses to thrive. Now, when the business environment is friendly, it will reduce the high cost of production. Nigeria largely depends on importation, and that hampers our growth. But when the business environment is stabilized, the producers can begin to produce and employ more people. And this way, it will help. The exit of the giants, the GSK, the P&G, has laid off over 10,000 people from the job market. And so what do we want these people to do? How do we want them to earn livelihoods? Now, 10,000 is not just a number. 10,000 is people's lives. Includes children, wives, siblings, dependents. How do we expect these people to survive? So whenever we're looking at numbers and the effect on how it's going to affect people, we cannot just pick one person and look at how it affects them, because that one person is responsible for several other people who earn their livelihoods from them. So it's necessary that while the government is putting these policies into place, that we can begin to measure the effects of how our micro and small medium sector can grow from where they are. Most businesses are struggling today. We've heard that the national grid collapsed. How will businesses survive if we keep experiencing collapse of the grid? Because these businesses will now have to depend on alternative power supply like generator, like the solar systems, and these alternative forms of power supply are quite expensive for small businesses. If businesses continues to collapse, like we've seen with startups and several other businesses that are trying to come up, then Nigeria will be in for a real deal. But what can we do? Major thing we can do is to ease the business environment. We've seen it with the Corporate Affairs Commission, and we believe that these policies can continue, can be sustained. We do not want a situation where political instability would lead to inability to sustain the efforts of previous administrations, just like the PEBEC. That was a policy by the previous administration, and it brought a lot of benefits. People can now register their business names within a stipulated period of time. In fact, within 24 to 72 hours, if all the requirements are met. People can connect to the grid. Do we still have those policies running from the previous administration? It's also necessary that in order to help businesses thrive, that they get access to microcredit facilities. We saw that in the previous administrations. And these are really good policies that were put in place. And it's necessary that we don't need to begin to create afresh. We can thrive by looking at the policies from the previous administration and ensure the sustainability. I think that's something that administrations need to begin to look at. If we begin to scrap the National Social Investment Program because the people at the helms of affairs were corrupt, then we will go nowhere. Those programs would help to alleviate poverty. Today, Nigeria no longer has the middle class. It is the middle class that helps to cushion the effects of the economy because they have spending power. But today, we probably could only classify citizens as either rich or poor. haves or have-nots. It shouldn't be that way. The middle class has shrinked, and when you have this disparity, there will be problem.
Indeed, indeed. Just like you said, I yesterday had guests from the Bakers Association of Nigeria, and they did attest to how much of an impact it was these current economic realities is having on the sector, and how many people had lost their jobs in just a very short amount of time. But let's talk about the dollar effect particularly. I speak of this because, unfortunately, this is something that has gone on for quite a while. Even the CBN has attested to how much of a dollarized economy Nigeria has become. And that also, like you have rightly mentioned, has trickled down to Nigeria's informal sector. So let's talk about the effect of the dollar on the informal sector, because personally, I believe from my own experience that it has become so bad that even the lady on the street, say the lady who's selling vegetables, would say, oh, the dollar, so the vegetable size is reduced or the price is increased. So let's talk about the dollar effect and the informal sector in Nigeria.
The effect of the dollarization of the economy is one to actually pay close attention to. We have people who school abroad and would have to pay in foreign currency, and that's one of the effects. Nigeria had an agreement with China some time ago in the previous administration to be able to have this current currency exchange, and it's a policy that I am not sure if we have started seeing the implementation. The effect of the dollarization is so much that the dollar has even become so popular as a form of exchange in Nigeria than the naira.
I understand some merchants even collect dollar in cash now.
Some merchants collect dollars. Some of the active ingredients that people who are business owners need for production will have to be purchased from overseas. And it makes it uneasy because the rates at which they would have to get this dollar in the black market is so high. And the time they will need to obtain it at the official rate, either we don't have enough dollar at the official rate, or it is not accessible. You realize that some people will say they have applied to receive dollar in order to be able to continue production, but they don't have access to it. So in order to fast track production, they would rather go to the black market. But then the rates at the black market is so high that when they buy these ingredients and they bring it in for production, the cost of production will now be high. Talking about flour. Some flours are imported. We have the ones that are made in Nigeria, but some are imported. I can remember that some years ago, we buy a loaf of bread for 300 naira. Those loaves of bread today, you cannot buy for less than 1,200 naira.
That is even fair, in my opinion. I would say more than that, more than that.
And that is just for the active ingredient that's used by bakers. What about power supply? What about the salaries that they have to pay? What about the rent they have to pay? So when you look at this effect on the informal sector, it even bites harder on them because they are job creators. And the moment job creators begin to say, you see, it's over, I can no longer do this, then the Nigerian economy will dwindle. So it's necessary that we do not dollarize the economy. Let the naira have some dominance. Why should we live in Nigeria and some goods and services will be paid for in dollars? Till today, majority of companies in Nigeria that do website hosting and all of that, they do that abroad because either there are fewer companies that provide such services or their services are not so good and Nigerians will now have to go for web hosting services abroad because they have stable power supply to man their businesses. They want people to go to their website and they want to find it live. So these are some of the effects that just having a website alone, people have to use offshore services. Why? Because of lack of electricity. Because it's only by having stable electricity that can ensure that the servers are 100% of the time online. So in order for us to ensure that the naira can gain value, the first thing we need to do is production. Nigerians consume a lot. We do not produce. Our production is subsistent, is a form of you want to call it subsistence farming. When we look at farming, we only produce what the immediate family can consume. But we're talking about production that can even get into the international market, production that can be sold for foreign exchange. We have less inflow, and that's why Nigeria is where it is. So we should focus on not just production for the Nigerian economy, but production for the purpose of exportation. If we can begin to export, then we can have foreign exchange. If we can provide security, then we can attract foreign direct investment. If we can make the environment business friendly, then we can create more jobs. These are some of the things that would help the naira to gain value. Without exportation, the naira will continue to depreciate or lose value. So it's necessary that every Nigerian begins to produce. The moment we can produce and sustain ourselves, then it's time to export.
Okay, in 1 minute, just before we go, at what point or where does Nigeria currently rank with regards to the ease of doing business? From your own point of view, where would you place Nigeria? With
respect to the ease of doing business, I think Nigeria is still struggling. Struggling is in the sense that the FIRS might even find it difficult to meet up with their targets. Why? Because of the exits of giants. FIRS might struggle. And if FIRS struggle to meet up with its target, it then means that we cannot embark on capital projects in the coming year. So where Nigeria is right now is the point where there is a weak system for the micro, small, and medium enterprises. That system has to be strengthened for Nigeria's energetic population to say, you know what, I want to go into business, and the environment is friendly to accommodate my ideas. The environment, when it chokes business ideas, when it chokes businesses, when it chokes the growth rate, it's not sustainable. The environment should help in such a way that we can say, okay, for startups, between this period and this period, you don't get to pay tax until you break even. But we have seen several needs. In fact, talking about multiple taxation, that's another thing. Several things that happens that makes it discouraging for people to go into business. People would rather, let me just look for a job or let me work remotely. Beyond losing foreign direct investment, we also have brain drain, losing our human resources. That's even one of the biggest losses, that our human resources are migrating from Nigeria to other countries.
Well, we hope the right people in authority are listening to conversations such as this, to address the difficulties that businesses have in running business here in Nigeria. Emmanuel Otori, economic analyst, they're speaking insightfully to issues around, the dollar and the effect on Nigeria's informal sector. Thank you for joining us or for coming on the program this morning.
Thank you for having me.
And this is where we draw the curtains on today's edition of the program. Join the conversation on social media and let's hear your thoughts on just how much of an effect, the current complexities around the naira is affecting your small business. My name is Chiamaka Enendu. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.